Why, hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Lunar, and welcome aboard to a review of a movie. That's right. And as you can imagine by the title of the video, yes, yours truly actually went to go see the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Matter of fact, I took my little brother with me. We sat down and watched it, and we came out of it actually kind of enjoying it. Now, I do want to mention that before I delve into my thoughts about this film, I am going to be spoiling it left and right. The story, the fan service, a lot of the little finer details thrown in here and there. So any of you who haven't actually watched the movie by this point, I advise you hold off on watching this video until after you've watched this film, because I really do want you to be surprised by just about everything this movie has in stock. But, hey, you're more than welcome to stick around if you want to hear my thoughts about it, but don't say I didn't warn you. So, I do want to start off with this, before I delve into the meat and potatoes of this. I did admittedly have a bit of skepticism about this movie when it was initially revealed way back in 2022. Like, the voice cast was quite interesting, to say the least. Like, you had people like Chris Pratt voicing Mario, Charlie Day, Anya Taylor-Joy, Jack Black, even Keegan-Michael Key was in this. Some of these actors, or probably a few of them, I didn't even know about, particularly Charlie Day and Anya Taylor-Joy. Like, where did they come from? It was also reported that Shigeru Miyamoto was going to be involved in the production of this film, but even with that in mind, I still had my reservations, though my skepticism was reduced to a minimum. Like, I didn't want to go into this movie expecting too terribly much out of it, but at the same time, I wasn't going to expect too little out of it either. So, on Monday, I went to go see the movie with my brother. We sat down, watched it from start to finish, including the post-credits the post-credit scene, and yeah, I had to admit, it was actually better than I expected it to be. Now, if you were expecting this to be something as, deep, thought-provoking, and really ahead of its time, like, say, Puss in Boots, or Shrek, or The Lion King, The Land Before Time, Prince of Egypt, all these other movies that you probably watched in your youth, you probably won't find any of that here. This movie's story has, like, the most bare bones plot that you can get, and really now, given that this is based upon the Mario franchise, yeah, it's kind of expected at this point. I didn't want them to go too far with the story, however, I wanted them to do something a little creative at the same time. Let's get into all of the things that I really loved about this film. So, the voice cast was actually really great. Of course, I had done my fair share of ragging on Chris Pratt for so long, but thankfully, Chris Pratt actually gives off a pretty great performance here. I know the characters aren't trying to be just like the actual video game voice actors, as I mentioned, Charles Martinet, Samantha Kelly, and all the yada yada who are prominent in the Mario franchise. Although, speaking of who, Charles Martinet does actually make an appearance in this movie. Well, he voices a couple of characters, but I'll get to that momentarily. But for what Chris Pratt's given and what he does, he actually did pretty great. And matter of factually, he did actually start to warm up on me after a while, so yeah, props to you, Chris Pratt, you did great. But I definitely gotta give a shout out to some of my favorite castings in this movie. Charlie Day as Luigi. Like, holy crap. That was probably the perfect casting for any character imaginable. Like, again, I understand why they didn't cast Charles Martinet as these characters. We're so used to them at this point, but man, if there was any actor that I wanted to play Luigi in any Mario movie that I was willing to make, Charlie Day would definitely be my choice. And I also really liked Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, who, I'm not even gonna lie with you, Keegan-Michael Key also gives an amazingly fantastic performance. Toad was actually kind of funny. I'll definitely say that much. And I also did like the rest of the voice cast. You got Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach. Very grounded, a little bit more realistic. I kind of like that approach. I also really liked Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. He was kind of a decent fit, though admittedly he does just play himself for practically everything he's in. So yeah, he's playing Seth Rogen. And Kevin Michael Richardson, he's definitely a he's definitely great as Kamek. Like, he's one of my favorite voice actors ever because of how insanely talented he is. Like, man, that dude really is just going places. Kevin Michael Richardson, if you're watching this, you the man. But of course, I do have to mention the best casting choice out there, and one that I actually do greatly agree with, Jack Black as Bowser. I know I said that Charlie Day and Keegan-Michael Key were my favorite castings for this movie, but Jack Black as Bowser, that to me was absolutely genius. I don't really think you could have this character any other way. Like, for crying out loud, he even has a musical number in this film. Well, 2, if you count the reprise of Peaches. Unfortunately, I can't play it though, because copyright. Ugh. But yeah, I really did love Jack Black's performance as Bowser. He gives us that intimidating aura, but also has this, like, goofy characterization, which I'm gonna just say right now, the characterization of some of these characters was actually pretty spot on. Luigi being fearful of the supernatural, particularly the dry bones that chase him around, or Mario being sort of like the hero, the one who becomes brave enough to fight the evil before him, or Toad being Toad. Yeah. But definitely the best characterization is none other than Bowser, with his musical numbers like I alluded to before. But like I said, he's also pretty great. He doesn't really have that much presence in this movie, but what screen time he is given, I really think it's quite a delight to look at. And I also do like some of his interactions with his minions, especially Kamek. Those scenes were actually kind of funny to me. I really like that. Did I forget to mention Charles Martinet? Of course not, I didn't. But Charles Martinet does also make an appearance in this movie as well. Matter of fact, he voices 2 characters. He voices Giuseppe, who appears at the start of the film, and he voices Mario's father, which, I won't lie, was actually a very nice treat for those who are fans of Mario. It was really nice that they gave him a cameo role in this movie, because, honestly, if you weren't to have him in this movie whatsoever, I feel like it just wouldn't feel all that warm and fuzzy, you know? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was really nice that they got him on board to be a part of the project. Not sure why they couldn't get Kenneth Mars or even Samantha Kelly to be on board, but that's not here nor there. Actually, speaking of Kenneth James, they actually do use some of his voice clips in some scenes. It is subtle, but you do notice it when you hear it, and it is admittedly quite a treat to behold. And one last thing that I do want to mention, and this is one voice actor who actually caught me by surprise, Scott Menville, the voice of Robin from Teen Titans. He's actually in this movie, and he voices the Blue Koopa Troopa, who literally turns into a blue shell from Mario Kart and blows himself up. That was pretty cool. Scott Menville's a great guy. He's pretty awesome. So yeah, overall, I really did like the voice cast quite a bit. On to the animation, of course. Like, I'm not even gonna lie with you guys. This is a beautiful looking film. Most of Illumination's films already do look great by themselves, but I really feel like they had the budget to create these worlds and animate these characters in a way that felt believable, cartoonish, and grandiose. Like, that's the thing about this movie. It feels so grandiose. The kingdoms, the Rainbow Road sequence, literally just about everything in this movie is like, it's little eye candy, especially all the fan service thrown in the background here and there. Like, I absolutely loved looking at Brooklyn for its drab and boring looking color palette while also looking rich and vibrant and detailed. I also really loved the Mushroom Kingdom, the Land of the Mushrooms. There was also the Badlands, Bowser's Castle. Oh my god, dude. Bowser's Castle was so freaking cool to look at. I just couldn't get enough of it every time it was on screen. And then there was the Jungle Kingdom, then there was the Penguin Kingdom, and the Rainbow Road sequence like I mentioned before. Oh my lord, that was the most breathtaking locale I've ever actually looked at. Probably might be better than most other 3D animated movies during this time, and it really does, that really is saying a lot. Another scene that I actually really liked, especially for the contrasting color palettes, the fire flower scene where Mario and Peach are having a moment together. Like, I really love that night sky and how the reddish orange ground just sort of contrasted with how bright and vibrant it is. My god, that was also pretty beautiful looking. So yeah, I don't really need to keep saying it at this point, but they did a damn amazing job with the animation. Like, if there was any studio that I could trust to do some great animation with, it's definitely Illumination. And some of their movies, I'm not entirely a fan of, but I really appreciate them going all out with the visuals, the fidelity, the details, and all this other stuff that they've managed to incorporate into the movie. Which, speaking of fan service, there's a lot of it. There is so much of it. Like, of course, the Super Mushroom and the Mini Mushroom, those were pretty cool. I also really liked Cat Mario and this fight between him and Donkey Kong. That was also really freaking cool. Raccoon Mario is also in this movie as well. Man, that scene was actually pretty breathtaking, I won't lie. Him getting in that Tanuki suit was actually pretty cool. And I also did really like some of the other finer details. Jisupe, like I mentioned before, who's voiced by Charles Martinet, that was pretty nice. I also really like that some other characters in the background made appearances, like the Yoshis in this one scene, or the other Kongs, like Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong. I think Tiny Kong, Clanky Kong, and even Chunky Kong also appear as well. I literally picked out the worst seats imaginable, so I couldn't really see very well. Seriously, don't freaking pick the front row seats if you're going to a movie theater, ladies and gentlemen. It will make your viewing experience a lot more undesirable, but that's not here nor there. Of course, I am actually going to go see this movie again this weekend, so, yeah, I'll keep my eye out for any further fan service that there is. But for all the fan service that you do get out of this movie, you're going to feel right at home if you're that familiar with the Mario franchise as a whole. And even if you haven't played any of the Mario games in your life before, or haven't really played a video game at all, this movie will literally give you a pretty great idea on what these characters are like, how they act, what they do in the Mushroom Kingdom, the world building and all that stuff, which I'm going to go over some of the characterizations here. I really did like them, just like I alluded to before. I really liked that they played around with Luigi's fear of the supernatural. I really liked practically the entirety of Bowser and his interactions with some of the other characters. I liked Toad quite a bit. I liked Princess Peach. I liked Mario. Yeah, their personifications are pretty indicative of the games. I even like how they played with the idea of them being plumbers. Like, in this commercial that they had, they literally put on these Italian accents that are super exaggerated, and then suddenly they're just like, yeah, we're perfectly normal people. So that does at least give an explanation on why they don't use their Italian accents. I gotta admit, that was pretty funny. And I also did really like that they actually introduced us to the family of Mario and Luigi and how they are actually treated by them. I also thought that was a pretty nice scene. Oh yeah, and that final fight between Mario, Peach, Donkey Kong, Toad, and Bowser. Man, what an epic final fight that was. Like, that very moment when all was lost, but Mario and Luigi grabbed the Power Star just in time and just went ham on with all these enemies and beat the shit out of Bowser, that was spectacular. Oh yeah, and I also gotta mention the Mario Kart sequence. Oh my god, dude, that was pretty amazing. I really loved how intense it was, how much of a joyride it was. On to the things that I kinda didn't like about this movie. Well, I will say that the original score for this film is fantastic, being derivative of the games and all, and I do also like that they even incorporated some official video game soundtracks into the film itself, like the DK rap from Donkey Kong 64, that was quite a treat to listen to. But as for some of the licensed soundtrack, and I know that quite a few animated movies, or a lot of them, should I say, do have indeed licensed music, and yeah, I really could have done without them, to be honest. Like, Holding Out for Your Hero is probably the best of them all, but I don't know. You could replace them with an entire original score, or maybe even a song from a video game. Like, I don't know, that remix of Punch-Out from Super Smash Bros., that would have been perfectly fitting for the training sequence. And as far as the characters are concerned, like I said, they were all great for the amount of screen time they were given, though I do kind of wish that they gave Kamek a little more screen time, because he barely really does anything apart from, like, helping out Bowser here and there. And yeah, I felt like he was kind of some wasted potential there, which is a bit disappointing. And I also really wish they could have done a little bit more with Luigi, like maybe give him at least a few more scenes, one for before he gets captured, and then another where, you know, he tries to escape. I don't know, I feel like maybe there could have been at least a few more extra scenes involving him. That is admittedly a minor blemish, and the same can also be said about the pacing of the film. Like, it does sort of meander a little bit at the beginning, but by the halfway mark, especially when they get to the Mushroom Kingdom, it almost sort of feels like they just wanted to get the movie over with as soon as possible, and I totally understand it. A long movie can be boring, probably 2 hours might put somebody to sleep, but I don't know. I feel like maybe you could have had at least 4 extra minutes of runtime. Like I said though, all of these criticisms I have, totally minor, not really detrimental to the movie itself whatsoever, because I'm gonna just say it now, a lot of the good that this movie has does outweigh a lot of the bad, which, again, is minimalistic. So yeah, that's altogether my thoughts about the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and needless to say, I really liked it. Of course, if you're not entirely familiar with the Mario franchise whatsoever, then this movie might not necessarily be for you, or you might possibly get into it, because the characterizations themselves are indicative of the games, like I said, so it might be a little hard for you to get into them, and the story, like I said, is super thin, but then again, it didn't really have to be anything more than a Mario adventure. But with that said, I hereby give this movie an official seal of approval with a score of 4.5. The minor things that I criticized definitely brought it down a little bit, but overall, it was a fantastic movie from start to finish. I didn't want to expect too much out of it, and, well, I got a Mario adventure out of it, so yeah, definitely a great movie all around. So I guess that's the review, ladies and gentlemen. So with that said and done, I hope I bid you all adieu, farewell, have yourselves a lovely day. I hope you all enjoyed this lovely video I decided to make, and let me know down below if you want to see some more movie reviews from me, because I definitely might want to start doing that at some point, because, you know what, maybe I should start doing something a little fun for once. That would definitely be a lot of fun to do. But anyways, that does it for today's video. See you later, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lunar Chris signing out. Thanks for watching.